All right. Mark's been with us since the beginning, but not until now has he shown his bloody face. But I mean, you have an Instagram, a YouTube, Smash Brothers Gaming. We've been talking about you since probably for like 2 years now, because we got the Slasher Kart 64, we got Simpsons Kart 64. You sent us a modded Dreamcast, or you sent us a Dreamcast with like a mod kit, which is like pretty freaking generous. And I would say, I don't know, but maybe like, I don't want to say 70%. Let's call it 50%. I think about 50% of my VHS collection at this point came from you. Before you, I was interested in getting the CBS Fox video releases of Star Wars, and that was it. I think I had a Beauty and the Beast on tape. No, I had Little Mermaid with the penis in the castle. Yeah. I kept that.
That was for me, damn it.
Yeah. I wanted to make sure EJ had it if I died. But then, yeah, I think it was through, you sent me some, a few tapes, and then I started watching, I followed you on Instagram, and what Mark does in TikTok, you put them up on TikTok too. But they're often these little kind of 1 minute, like, hey, I've got this cool retro room. Sometimes I just bought like a classic arcade cabinet that I'm trying to polish up, or, I want to talk about, playing on a physical console, or this set of tapes, always these kind of little like nostalgia, like spotlights. And I can't get enough of them. I mean this with all sincerity, when, in a sea of shit on social media, when Smash Brothers Gaming jumps into my feed, I'm like, oh, good. Like something
retro and cozy.
Yeah, something cozy. And plus, you got that voice. You got that even tone voice that kind of cuts right through the background music.
Well, I don't know if what I post is all that original, but it's sincere what I'm saying.
So can we profile you a little bit? Like, what's your background? How did you get into like nostalgic media? Why are you doing it on social media? Like, just like bring us up to speed.
I was trying to go back and find where it kind of like all started, especially with VHS tapes, because I was like, did this ever really go out of fashion for me, or was I always just messing around with it? And like as I go back through like all my projects, I was really big into like music production, and I did that for a while. I was a freelance audio engineer, and I did that for like most of my like younger 20s. And one thing that I would do was I would always keep VHS tapes, and I would sample clips of audio from the VHS tapes. So it kind of like has always been prevalent in everything that I do. And then I think around like 2019, I was working for a company who sent me to a gaming show for a Smash Brothers tournament. And the crowd was just so much fun to interact with, and it kind of, I don't know, awakened something in me. And I was like, this is just so much fun, and I just wanted to be a part of it and interact with everyone. I mean, I still like had my games, and I would collect, and I wouldn't really make it post anything socially, or at least on the social networks. But after that show, I was like, oh man, I want to dive into this more. And I made my account Smash Brothers Gaming while I was at that show, because I was like so into it, and I just wanted to continue with it.
It's interesting watching what you highlight in your videos, because you can tell that our age difference is like 7 years or something. Like, are you like there? Is that about right? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm almost 32. So
yeah. Well, there you go. Yeah. So it's like we're just a little tiny bit older, where like you have a little bit more nostalgia for like the next generation of Nicktoons, that I'm like one behind that. It's all, I remember growing up with, or I'll talk to like a Gen Xer now, and I'll be like, remember Power Rangers? And they're like, not really. Yeah. Like Power Rangers was kind of like a baby thing by the time, and it's sometimes just like that, like 5 to 7 years can kind of change, like generationally, or like there's people who are slightly older than me. So somebody maybe like John's age, where like He-Man was a much bigger deal. And when I was a kid, I was born in 86. Like He-Man was kind of on the way out by that point. Like if you could describe to somebody this room that you've got, this essentially the sort of set that you're always shooting in, What's that got in it? I noticed like a nice TV that you're playing VHSs on. It drives me slightly crazy, if I'm honest. I'm like, doesn't he have the CRT right there?
Yeah, I do. It's right here next to me. Well, it's a plasma, and it's like an
I have
old
a plasma
plasma from
too.
the early 2000s, and
Yeah, all right, fair
everything
enough.
scales so well on it, whether you're
Yeah.
playing on the N64 or PS1 or anything like that.
Does it heat up the room? Does it make the room nice and hot?
I mean, not that I've noticed. If you get like the Dreamcast going behind me and then the CRT and everything else in here, it gets pretty toasty though. At first, people would just be like, "Oh yeah, it's just like game room or something like that," and then I started collecting like a lot of tapes and just weird knickknacks and different things. So then like people like have started just calling it like the nostalgia room. There's all kind of like weird stuff from my life in here. A lot of Taco Bell stuff, my Nickelodeon collection and everything. It's a little bit of everything.
Yeah, didn't you buy some McDonald's seats, like bar height seats?
Yeah, I have the McDonald's chairs, the Grimace, Fry Kid, and the hamburger patch seat.
Fast food kids iconography. That's a very specific kind of nostalgia, but obviously a very alive and well one. So like they wouldn't have done the Grimace shake thing if they didn't know there was something.
Yeah.
I'm surprised they didn't follow through with that a little bit more since it was such a resounding success. Like,
yeah, I feel like that
Oh,
was
yeah,
such a
you're
big
right.
miss. I think
Yeah.
in Canada they said that they did it, and then I think they turned the Empire State Building purple for Grimace's birthday or something like that. For, like just had purple lights on it. But
biggest birthday ever.
yeah, they were doing like the grandma shake during his birthday month or something like that. It was like a flannel cup, I think, or something.
EJ shared a commercial just recently that it's one of my favorite commercials ever, actually, and one of my favorite. I don't know, like nostalgic themes, which is the Mario 3 Happy Meal at McDonald's, the one with
yeah.
the bouncing raccoon and the Koopa Troopa that nobody has the thing that makes it go, right?
I always see that display come up for sale, the like
Yeah.
kids meal toy box.
Oh,
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is the toys are common enough. You see those at flea markets; they're in assorted boxes and stuff. But what you'll probably never see is or what's much more rare is the actual Happy Meal box that was Mario themed with Mario iconography all around the sides.
Yeah, they come up every so often.
Do they? Yeah.
But I used to collect those displays, and then I was like, I got too much junk. I was like, I got to get rid of some of this stuff.
Yeah, that's a problem.
There was this guy that I met on Facebook, and he was super into McDonald's, and I was like, hey, I have all this stuff. If you want it, I'll just send it to you. So
Oh, nice.
oh wow.
See, you're like Santa Claus, dude.
Yeah.
You gave EJ nice stuff too. Do you tell us about? So if you're going to buy that kind of junk, I can, or that quantity of junk, I should say, I can guess where you're sourcing it from. Probably like thrift stores, flea markets, and Facebook Marketplace, generally speaking, or like Facebook groups. Is that generally where you're getting your stuff?
So yeah, Facebook groups is great. Usually, like the stuff in Facebook groups is cheaper than compared if you go onto eBay.
Yeah, eBay's awful.
Yeah, eBay's kind of overpriced, but if you're like desperate for something, it's great.
Yeah, eBay is almost like the retail version of thrift. you know?
Yeah. Like I got my. I mean, it depends. Like my Taco Bell coin drop game, I got that on eBay, or at least I met the guy through eBay, and I think I paid like $75 for it.
The
and
Taco
now,
Bell coin drop game. Oh my
Yeah.
god!
Yeah,
you unlocked a memory I didn't even know I had.
yeah, and now like people are asking like $1,500 for it online, and it's I don't know, it's not worth that at all. I think $75 is a good price for it. But yeah, so I mean, most of it like eBay if I'm looking for something specific, the Facebook groups, and then just the general marketplace. I still look through Craigslist. That's always fun. Those people are a lot more interesting to meet than the typical Facebook crowd.
Yeah, people who think Craigslist is still viable. Those are probably interesting people.
I kind of forgot about Craigslist. Is the website itself still a very like unstructured kind of STD ridden place?
Yeah, it feels like my computer is going to get AIDS every time I'm on it.
Exactly. Yeah. Every time you meet up to get a VHS, you're like, "How's this gonna go?"
Yeah, I mean, there's some really sketchy people. I have some stories from Facebook meetups or Craigslist meetups where I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to come out of this alive, but I really want this tape.
I, I really need this Scooby Doo variant.
Like I on this one Craigslist meet, I went to this bar and this guy was like, "Oh, come out back with me." So I go out back and there's like those Bilko basement doors, and he's like, "Oh, it's down in here." And I was like, "Oh no!"
There's like
Down
meat
there.
hooks.
Yeah, very much like Goodfellas when he's like, "The dresses, they're over there.
Yeah.
The VHS tapes, honey, they're over there."
Yeah. So I mean, I went down, and then it was filled with children's like those motion rides at like Kmart and stuff back in the day where you pop in the quarter. And he just had the whole basement filled with that stuff, and that made me feel even more nervous. But he was actually just a really nice guy, and I mean probably the same thing. Like when I'm 20 years from now, I'll be in the same situation where someone will come down into my basement and they'll be like, "What is all this junk?"
You're like, take the Taco Bell sign. Here, I want to briefly discuss your philosophy around VHS, because as anybody who's been following the podcast for a couple of years knows, we kind of started with like, it was dabbling, and now it's become like kind of a major. We end up talking about VHS on some regular cadence. And again, you're chiefly to blame, I would say. It's funny. Trevor, who edits for us, he was like, "You guys talk about it so often. I'm going to put together a logo, like a motion graphics thing." And he was like, "It's going to be called Talk About Tapes." And I was like, "You can't call it that." And he was like, "Why not?" And I was like, "Tony from Hack the Boobies has a show called Talk About Tapes." And he was like, "Oh, damn it." And I was like, he's like, "So what should we call it?" I was like, "I don't know, Tape Hall." And he was like, "Tape Hall?" He was really, he didn't want to call it that, but we ended up going with that. So you'll probably see an intro at some point here. But generally, the comments that we receive, the feedback we receive is like-minded people who also are kind of into this stuff, or at least kind of find it interesting on some level. But there is like this kind of, I don't know, these marginal comments we sometimes get that are akin to like, "Stop trying to make it happen, VHS." I'm not trying to make it happen. I'd really rather the price stay right where they are, by the way.
Yes.
They're like, in fact, to me, that's like one of the most fun things about it is it's a pretty easy thing to get into, right?
Yeah. You can go to a thrift store and just pay $1 for a tape you really want. So it's great.
A quick side note, I've on our Red Cow Entertainment channel, we've gone to the Raynham Flea Market lots of times. It's this place in Massachusetts that is awesome for thrifting. I mean, it's just a really beautiful, excellent place to go shopping, and you'll get stuff blind really fast. Right up the street from me is the Tiverton Flea Market, and I've driven by it 1 trillion times. And I thought it was an outside yard sale. I never bothered to go in there. And it turns out there's this guy, Billy, who has like a pretty great room full of collectibles and a wall filled with VHS. And he's way into VHS. Whereas at Raynham, which is like nothing but square footage, I mean, there's tons of stuff. I can't find a lot of VHS. There's maybe like a tape here. And I got a Spinal Tap there, which was great to see for like $5 in really good shape. But this dude has like and he gets new stuff in all the time. Like I just bought Legend and Wolfman and or Wolfman, if you will, and Scrooged. So especially for like seasonal holiday stuff, it's always great to like be like, "Oh yeah, pick up like a Christmas thing."
Yeah, when you find those, it's so weird, so hard to stumble on like good spots that have like decent tapes, and when you do, the people are always like, "Come back, I get them in all the time."
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, they probably end up having something like 20 clientele, like just freaks like us. But it was he and I stood there for like an hour talking about tapes. We just couldn't call the show that. But so they'll say, "Stop trying to make it happen. It's not vinyl. I don't get it. It looks like shit. They're cheap. We threw them all out." Like I got this one comment, "I'm fascinated looking in." This guy was a little bit nicer about it. Sometimes they'll get a little bit offended. "There's an entire wall full of vinyl behind me, but at least that sounds great. VHS and cassettes." So audio cassettes. Are you at all into audio cassettes?
I have a few. There's this company, Enjoy the Ride, and they do some like cool reissuing of things on cassettes. They did this like really cool Goosebumps cassette, and it's like this clear green neon color with the soundtrack on it. They do like N64 stuff where they make it look like an N64 cartridge, and it has the game soundtrack.
Oh yeah, you sent me the soaps too. The soaps. I love those.
Yeah,
soaps.
the soaps. Yeah.
You can see that this is Donkey Kong 64. Can you not?
Yeah.
He's not seriously sending me a shitload of video games, is he?
They're bars of soap. They're bars of soap, aren't they?
Yeah, they're bars of soap. These are soap. I love it.
I have novelty stuff like that, but otherwise, I'm not big on cassettes.
Well, it's like anything. All it takes is to be nostalgic for one. And then you're like, I want that one,
Mm-hmm.
I remember my wife bought me, when I was like 16, she bought me a Christmas cassette. It had Malika Likamaka, and it had, Is That You, Santa Claus? It had a lot of those like 60s songs and stuff. And it's long gone, but I have like memories tied to that are related to my wife. And so like, if I ever came across that particular tape, I'd be way into it. It's like a Sesame Street one too that I had as a child that I would love to run into.
Oh, I have a lot of. There were like tapes for kids back in the 90s of like popular movies of that time, but they were like made to be more kid friendly. So like it was like a more kid friendly version of Batman and Robin, Batman Forever, like a bunch of different tapes like that. I have just because I had from when I was a kid.
I remember like Walmart did that, like just by default they would have censored versions of everything.
Yeah.
You couldn't. I think it wasn't Walmart. I think it was Walmart.
Walmart was famously the parental guidance store. Yeah, okay, so he says VHS and cassettes were so craptacular, I'm at a loss as to why people are going back to them. So I responded. I said, I'm going to give you my top 4 reasons, and I'm sure I missed some, and then I want your take on, like, did I miss anything? Number 1, nostalgia. There's just literally the thing that I remember as a child now I have in my hand, right? That's not so difficult. Unique sleeve designs, right? A VHS sleeve is a unique novelty concept. And a lot of times the art, because it's, it was a different era and it was, a little bit dimensionally different from DVD. They're off. The art is kind of unique in a lot of cases. People who have retro game setups, I think this might be the biggest one, actually. I think this might be the biggest one because this is what touched me. People who have retro game setups on CRTs now have viable nostalgic / retro setups for VHS. The truth is, I probably wouldn't collect for it if I couldn't play it. That is the truth. But now that hey, the NES is set up, the SNES is set up, I got EverDrives out my ass.
Yeah.
It's like it's one extra step, and it kind of fills the hole that like I don't really want to buy a lot of NES cartridges. It's just too bullshit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whereas tapes are more fun for me.
I used to have a lot of NES cartridges, and I sold it all off. I got rid of them.
Wow.
And
do you remember what you got back for the whole lot?
I don't remember. I mean, I think I decided to sell during COVID, so it was like at the height of those prices.
People were
fascinating period of time, right? Where people were
Yeah.
buying classic games as though they were new or something. Like
Yeah, but
they were buying
I mean,
PS2s.
I was gonna say through like everything from NES up until like the PS2, even Xbox 360 games, there was like a little bump in pricing for certain titles. But yeah, I mean, I got rid of all my games except for like 20, and I just got an EverDrive, and when I want to play something, I just play it on that.
Outside the games that you like grew up with, the ones I grew up with, I don't really see the need to just get random NES games. Like,
Yeah.
while tapes, like I might go a little crazier because like they're movies. You'll watch a movie, right?
Yeah, EJ was kind of the other half of it because he was laughing about the Fellowship being squished and stuff.
Yeah.
That kind of jazzed me up a little bit too. I was like, oh, there's fun to be had with 4x3.
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting because every tape is like kind of different. Like each version that was released of the same thing.
Yeah, and that's kind of my fourth point actually, which was VHS releases were much smaller, less storage, and focused. So it added a new layer of marketing and curation you don't get with digital. So in other words, to use the South Park example, if I buy a South Park tape, I'm getting 2 episodes and a bonus episode, let's say. And so it's a little, why would I think that having fewer options on one tape is fun? I don't know, because there's something about what they or like a Simpsons tape where they're like, the theme is politics, and then they chose 2 political episodes from season 4 and season 6 or something, and there's just a little bit more randomness and curation to it, a little bit more sometimes, like, I feel like in this culture of media saturation, like a little bit of like narrowness is a little appealing, right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's value in the inconvenience of it, right? Like it's not really that convenient of a format. The tapes take up a lot of space. The player you have to maintain, but when you buy the tape or find the tape out and get home and watch it on this outdated player, it feels like it really happened. Where streaming, I don't really connect with it the same way. It's like streaming's disposable. I'll be on my phone the whole time watching something unless it's something that really draws me in. And even that, it's rare to find something really great these days that pulls you in.
Kind of like paper books and digital books to some degree.
Yeah.
There's maybe something, for people who are big readers, you sometimes hear them say that. They're like, I can't really, or like, I'm not going to focus in on an audio book the way that I would a paper book, or maybe that's not analogous, but it's sort of similar.
Yeah. I mean, when you have like your full attention on this one thing and you spent all this effort, to go through the trouble of setting up the player, getting the tape and everything, it just means more.
Yeah, when I went to Salvation Army and I saw that Batman tape, I took it home. I brought it onto my porch where my big Sony Trinitron 32-inch was. I popped that tape in. I poured myself a whiskey. I sat down and that Coke commercial comes up first. And you're just like, I don't know. You're just locked in. You're living your best life very intentionally.
Yeah, that's my kind of night.
Just for the taste of it, Diet Coke.
I have a rocking chair in front of my retro setup, and so it's really kind of reserved for like if my wife goes to sleep early and I'm still up working on something. I'll even just sit in the rocking chair. I'll have the glow of the VHS tape going, so I won't give it the full attention to contradict everything we just said. And I'll edit video and just have like the vibe of it. And I was doing that with those Katie videos, like the Joker one and stuff. Every time I'd look up, I'd see that it was formatted wrong. It was pissing me off the whole time.
Yeah.
That's why we worked so hard on to 4x3 the Box Mac tapes.
If you played that on like certain TVs, like this Sony PVM that's in front of me, you can set it to 16:9. So you could squish it.
Yeah, my Panasonic ain't gonna do it. I looked. Believe me, I looked. Do you collect it all for like that sort of the novelty releases? The new modern VHS releases?
No, I mean the only tape. So I've got a tape from Katie Video. I got Lisa Frankenstein because I saw that movie and I was like, oh man, this movie is fantastic. I wanted to have like a physical copy of it, and I was looking online. It wasn't out yet, but Katie did the VHS of it, and I was like, oh man, the cover is great. Because say what you want about how it's formatted, but her covers are beautiful. So
that was directed by Zelda Williams.
Yeah,
and written by Diablo Cody of Juno fame and Young Adult. You ever see Young Adult? It's like one of my favorite movies.
I haven't seen it.
It's Charlize Theron plays a 40-year-old hot woman who comes back to her hometown in search of like basically her high school prom date, played by Patrick Wilson, and she's trying to like relive basically what was the peak of her life. And she comes home and he's like very happy. He's the townie, but he's very happy and he's happily married. And she kind of like, debases herself with her behavior. And it was directed by Jason Reitman too.
Okay.
All right. So the reason, the primary reason we brought you on is because that giant collection that you have, you're putting it to work. You have a website, right?
Yeah. Geekguilt.com.
Geekguilt.com. That's where you had been selling things like the soaps and like the ROM hacks and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, all those little projects.
Any other ones we never profiled on the show before that you'd want to tell people about?
I mean, I think I've sent you guys my slime stand before.
The slime stands, yeah. The 3D printed slime stands, yeah.
Over there.
Yeah, I mean, we sell other stuff from other manufacturers as well, like Numbskull. They do all different gaming accessories and things like that.
Who do you do it with a buddy or something, or who are you doing this with?
It's primarily me, and then I have people that I hired to work on it while I'm
Fulfillment
not there.
and stuff.
Yeah, I mean the Dreamcast mod kit is on there.
Worked beautifully, by the way. Super
yeah.
easy too. Super
Yeah,
easy.
it's really nice to work on those consoles. I really
It's
enjoy
not like
it.
the PlayStation one where you have to bend up pins and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's a mess. No, this one you just slap right in. It's great.
You need to do one of those for the PS1, Mark, so I can.
Yeah,
them on it.
I have a broken PS1, and I've been wanting to work on it, but there's just so many other projects stacked up.
Yeah.
One day I'll get to it.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.